Hey everybody, welcome back to Vedic Sage. I'm Dr. Dhaliwal, and today we're going to continue talking about chronic fatigue syndrome from an Ayurvedic perspective, looking at Kapha doshic imbalance as being one of the main root underlying causes for this chronic fatigue syndrome. We've seen how, from an Ayurvedic perspective, that we can manage the condition by finding herbs that are specific to the disease itself. For instance, chronic fatigue syndrome can be managed with the herb bala. Bala implies strength and vitality. Therefore, the herb bala is specific to the disease condition. Next, Ayurveda takes a look at which of the doshas are imbalanced. And in this case, we're focusing on Kapha dosha. Therefore, we can find an herb that is specific for Kapha, such as Punarnava. Punarnava is going to help to balance Kapha dosha. Next, we want to take a look at the state of Agni. Agni, which is the digestive fire. And in a previous video, we've talked about how impaired Agni is a common factor for chronic fatigue syndrome. Therefore, we want to find a specific herb that will help kindle and increase this digestive fire. And often with Kapha individuals, the digestive fire is considered Manda Agni, which is a slow, sluggish, and dull digestion. Therefore, we want to consider herbs that will help increase that digestive fire, such as Trikatu and Chittarak. Trikatu is a formulation of 3 herbs of black pepper, pipali, and ginger. So by consuming these herbs, that will help increase the digestive fire, which will digest the food more properly and adequately, as well as prevent the formation of ama, which is the undigested food product, which is considered toxic to the body if it's absorbed. Another important factor to take into consideration is taking a look at which of the dhatus, or the bodily tissue, that are affected either by a doshic imbalance or by the influence of ama that's absorbed into the systemic circulation and therefore affecting the structure and function of the tissue. For example, since we're focusing on Kapha, we know that the qualities of Kapha dosha are heavy, dense, slow, cold, oily, liquid, and dull. So if these qualities get absorbed into the systemic circulation, it can first affect Rasa Dhatu, which is the plasma of the blood, and therefore this can lead to lymphatic congestion and generalized swelling of the lymph nodes. And if that's the case, you would want to consider an herb such as Kanchanada, which is specific to Kapha dosha, entering into the plasma or Rasa Dhatu. Likewise, if the qualities of Kapha enter into the red blood cells, or hematocrit, that's considered the Rakta Dhatu, and this can manifest as megaloblastic anemia. That's when the red blood cells get larger in size. And if that's the case, you would want to consider an herb such as Manjista, which is specific for treating Kapha doshic imbalances which have entered into Rakta Dhatu. In the same manner, if the qualities of Kapha enter into Mamsa Dhatu, which is the muscle tissue, which may lose functionality and the effectiveness of the muscle. And if that's the case, you would want to consider an herb such as Vidadi. If the qualities of Kapha dosha enter into the fat tissue, or the Midha Dhatu, this can lead to increase in weight gain, obesity, even the formation of fatty tumors known as lipoma, or even affect the fatty degenerative changes within the liver. So if that's the case, you would want to consider herbs such as Kutki and Shilajit, which will help balance the Kapha dosha that has entered into the fat tissue. If the qualities of Kapha have entered into the Ashti, or bone tissue, this can lead to swelling of the joints. Therefore, you would want to consider an herb such as Triphala Gugalu to help balance the Kapha doshic influence on the bone tissue. If the qualities of Kapha dosha have entered into the Majja Dhatu, which is the nerve tissue, this can lead to signs and symptoms that range on a wide spectrum, anywhere from psychological disturbances such as depression and lethargy, all the way to the other extremes, such as creating central nervous system tumors. So therefore, it's very important to balance the Kapha doshic influence on the nerve tissue with herbs such as Brahmi and Jetamamsi. And lastly, if the doshic influences of Kapha enter into the sexual organs of Shukra and Artava, then this can lead to sexual debility as well as premature ejaculation. And therefore, you may want to consider herbs such as Shilajit and Atmagupta. So this was just an overview to see how Ayurveda looks at chronic fatigue syndrome, specifically for a Kapha doshic imbalance, and how can we manage this condition from an Ayurvedic perspective, looking at herbs that are specific for the disease, herbs that are specific for the dosha that's imbalanced, herbs that are specific for the Agni or the digestive capacity, as well as the herbs that are specific to the tissues that are affected, and therefore gives you an overall management for the condition at hand. Okay guys, I hope that helped. Until next time, take care and be well.